With pallet wood, work on creative projects. If you need wooden planks, you first need to dismantle your pallet before starting with the leftover wood. We show you how to safely strip your pallets. There are many different types of pallets, such as Euro pallets, block pallets, CP pallets, display pallets, and disposable pallets. Each has its own characteristics and construction. Before you start, it's best to check which pallets you have. Also inspect the wood and check if it is still in good condition. The quality of this strongly depends on your type of pallet. Disposable pallets are often less strong. In our case, the pallet has undergone a heat treatment, also known as heat treatment. You can recognize this by the IPPC mark. Pallets intended for export or import outside Europe must have undergone heat treatment. This ensures that there are no harmful living organisms in the pallet. To work well, it is best to set up a workbench for your various tasks. When you want to saw, gather, sand, and treat the wood later, the sturdy workbench will come in handy. To easily take apart the pallets, you can use a crowbar and a hammer, a claw hammer, and a pair of pliers. Before you start the job, ensure you are properly, adequately, and thoroughly protected. Because the pallets are still rough and you want to avoid splinters, wear safety gloves. Also wear safety glasses to protect your eyes. Safety shoes can also come in handy here. Do you have a crowbar and hammer at hand? Then you can easily loosen the planks. Place the crowbar between the top plank of the pallet and the wooden block underneath. You do this at the height of the nails to loosen the wood as efficiently as possible. Thanks to a few taps with the hammer, the cool foot easily comes between the two pieces of wood. With the lever technique, the wood comes loose. Alternate sides each time and try not to loosen the wood too abruptly, as the plank may split. If you don't have a crowbar, you can angle the pallets against the wall. You can knock the boards loose from the bottom. Hit as close to the nails as possible. You can also lay the pallets you want to loosen on the ground and let them rest on a block or another pallet. This way, you can exert more force when hitting with the hammer. We have already taken some nice boards from our pallets. Be careful of the nails that are still in them. Always make sure that the sharp edges of the nails are not facing upwards. Soon we will remove the nails from the boards. Instead of loosening the top shelves, you can also tap away the wooden support blocks. You can do this with a hammer, or again with a crowbar and the leverage technique. Now you can carefully and gently detach the transverse wooden slats one by one, and securely. If you simply prefer a quicker approach, you can also use power tools to dismantle the pallets. Do note that when working with rotating tools, for safety reasons, you should not wear gloves. The fastest way to work is to saw through the top planks along the support elements. Left, right, and in the middle. This works perfectly with a jigsaw or a circular saw. Only carefully place the saw into the workpiece when it is running. Otherwise, you might feel a kickback that can be painful for your wrists. The base of the saw should lie flat on the material. Once you are done sawing, turn off the jigsaw. Wait to pull the saw blade out of the cut until the machine has come to a complete stop. Always hold the circular saw with both hands. Keep your hands away from the saw cut and never place them behind the machine. Pay close attention to the power cable. Make sure it has enough room to move to avoid the machine pulling crooked and ensure it does not end up under the work. The short planks are ready made, but our long planks still have nails in them, which you need to remove. With a claw hammer, you can indeed easily remove nails from the wood. You can easily recognize the claw hammer by the V-groove. strike the nail further out of the wood from the underside of the plank. This way, the head lies further, and you can place the nail in the V-groove of the claw hammer. Using the lever technique, you can remove nails from wood. Make sure to always pull with the grain, otherwise there is a chance that you will split the wood. Without much effort, you can now remove all the nails from the wood. Prevent the floor from being covered with rusty nails and collect all the nails now in a jar. There are also other ways to remove the nails. You can cut them off with a multi-tool. Make sure the saw blade is suitable for metal. Also, protect your ears. When using the multi-tool, do not apply too much pressure. Let the saw blade do its work. Your nail is still in the wood, but it is nicely filed down. If you really want to work the wood with woodworking machines, it is indeed best to remove all the nails, as they could really cause damage. If you want to detach the boards from the support blocks in a different way, you can also saw through the nails using a reciprocating saw. The reciprocating saw is a flexible tool and can cut through both wood and metal. Do you prefer to use hand tools? Then you can always opt for the pincers. Pincers, pliers or pullers are metal tools used, among other things, to pull nails out of wood. This is done just like with the claw hammer using the lever principle. The pliers can also be used to cut thin wire, nails or pins. If you can't pull the nail out of the wood, you can always shorten it. Never cut too thick nails with pliers. It's better to use a hacksaw for that. The slats are not the same size. Based on what you want to make with the slats, you can cut them to the same length. With the help of a tri-square, you can mark where you want to saw. Ensure your eyes and ears are well protected when sawing. Also, make sure your feet are protected as the saw machine is elevated. If you are using a miter saw that can also cut at an angle, simply set it to 0 degrees for a straight cut. Make sure that the hand holding the plank is as far away from the saw blade as possible. The zone is usually marked on the device. Check again if the shelves are even. To work quickly and to ensure that the two slats are the same length, you can also place two pieces of wood on top of each other and saw them together. Clamp them well or use a stop. Once marked, you can also shorten the wood with a jigsaw. The jigsaw is mobile and you can work faster with it, but the tool is less precise and less straight. Using a clamp, secure the wooden slat. Pay extra attention to ensure your hand is not in line with the jigsaw. If you prefer to work here with hand tools, you can continue with a handsaw. First, make a groove and then start sawing. Use long strokes so you use the full length of the saw blade. Do not apply pressure, but let the saw blade work for you, gently. Also secure your wood joint firmly here. This prevents the wooden slat or beam from bouncing during sawing. Once all pieces of wood are cut to size, the wood needs to be sanded. You can use a sander for this, but you can easily do the job with a sheet of sandpaper. If you are working with power tools, let them do their job. Let the sander glide over the plank and avoid applying too much pressure on the device. First use a coarse grit and for the final finish choose a fine grit. This applies whether you are working with a sander or by hand. If you are working by hand, you can wrap the sandpaper around a scrap wood block. By placing a stop and positioning your workpiece against it, you can work more easily because there is less chance of moving your wood. As the final preparatory work before you start on a project, you can treat the wood. You can paint, stain, or oil the wood. We started working with leftover paint and stains. First, treat your wood with a primer. Then, mix the paint thoroughly. Then pour it carefully into a paint tray and apply the paint evenly to the wood with a brush or a paint roller. Brushes are used for a good distribution of the paint, or when the paintwork requires a bit more precision than with a paint roller. Make sure the surface is completely protected or work on an old piece of wood so that no stains are made. If you work with paint, you apply a layer to your wood and give it a uniform color. If you choose to stain the wood, the stain penetrates your wood and gives it a color, depending on the stain you choose. The grain remains nicely visible. A thin layer will be applied to your wood. The stain protects the wood. First, mix the stain. Then you can apply the product with a cloth or a paintbrush. Stain offers better protection, but is visible and will color your wood. If you want a less noticeable and more natural treatment of the wood, then you choose a wood oil. The wood oil completely penetrates the wood, and this therefore offers lower protection. Your stock of scrap wood is made into usable planks and slats. You can get started on your next project. Curious about what you can do? Or do you want more tips and tricks? Be sure to visit our website and subscribe to our online magazine.